back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my first ever 24-hour readathon. Now, this is my tentative TBR for this video. This is all I have left from my May TBR. And I do not think I will get to all 6 books in this video. There's just a little bit too much here, but I am hoping to complete 5 out of 6 books. I will also say that I have already started my readathon. I got up at 3:30, so let me send you guys back to past me and she will get you caught up on what has been happening. So it is 3:30 in the morning and I am starting my 24-hour readathon. So I am about 4 hours into my 24-hour readathon and about 300 pages into Six of Crows, and I am enjoying this book. I thought I would, to be honest, because I enjoyed the original Shadow and Bone trilogy, and I know that this is like the more beloved of the two series in the Grishaverse, but I have been putting it off, and I am so glad that it landed on my TBR for this month, and I am reading it. So if you're unfamiliar with the premise of this book, it follows a heist. So Kaz Brecker is kind of a lieutenant for a street gang in a city called Ketterdam. And to be honest, Kaz is really the power behind his gang. But he has done such a good job of making the gang profitable and notorious that he catches the attention of the Merchant Council of the city of Ketterdam. And they they jump him, pull him off the streets and say, hey, we want to offer you this job. And he manages to jack up the price pretty epically. And the job is to retrieve a shoe scientist who has created a drug for Grisha. Or enhance a drug for Grisha. So in this world, Grisha are the magic users, or in their words, the, wielders of small sciences. For example, if you are a heartrender, you can manipulate bodies to cause harm. And if you're a healer, you can manipulate bodies to heal. And if you are a squaller, you can control the winds. So there is this drug that can act as a stimulant for just anybody in general, but a lot of the Grisha use it, especially if they are a soldier. And somebody has basically screwed with this drug to make it highly addictive and also to enhance Grisha's powers beyond what is normal. For example, now a squaller can fly, or a heartrender can actually manipulate people, force people to follow their commands. So this drug is viewed as very dangerous for multiple reasons. It could give a country with a large Grisha population an edge, sort of like Ravka, or, for the Fjordans, it could, since they view Grisha as less than human and worthy of being hunted down, the Fjordans would then fear the Grisha getting a hold of this and becoming more powerful. And so it's just kind of one of those things where in the wrong hands, and really anybody's hands could be the wrong hands if they have poor intentions, this drug could be really, really dangerous. And so the heist is to retrieve the shoe maker of the drug. So this drug was developed in Shu. The maker has been highly contested. Currently, the Fjordans hold him. And so Kaz and his crew have been hired to jailbreak this guy from the Fjordans' capital, or the Ice Court, which is nigh on impregnable, of course. And so Kaz assembles a motley crew, some of his own people that he already knows and trusts, though Kaz is, not really someone to trust others. They recruit a Fjordan who is kind of sort of disgraced to their cause. He and Nina, the Heartrender in this crew, have history together. If you're familiar with the Shadow and Bone trilogy, it is, very fraught history. But the two of them are still kind of circling each other. Like, they can't make up their minds about whether or not they love or hate each other. And then, of course, there is whatever is going on with Kaz and Inej. I am almost more excited to see what's happening between the two of them than what will happen between Nina and Matthias. And then there is Jasper and Waylon. There seems to be something brewing there too. They're flirting with each other a little bit. But for now, we're more than halfway through this book, and I am having a grand old time. So I will catch you guys later. Now completed Six of Crows, and I did pause my timer when I was done because I kind of felt like I needed to get ready for the day, because I was not like up for doing hair and makeup and food at 3:30 a.m. So I figured I would start and finish a book, and then I would take like a brief intermission with my timer on pause, and then I could check in with you guys and do an intro, which is why we are here now. But I have finished Six of Crows, and this is a 5-star read. So we are starting our 24-hour readathon off with a bang. I so enjoyed this book. I am, as I said in my, halfway check-in, kind of bummed that I didn't pick it up sooner, but, I'm glad that we're here now. And I will probably read Crooked Kingdom in like a finishing series I'm in the middle of vlog. Probably, honestly, June's, because I try and do once a month. So, and I'm desperate to find out what happens after the events of this book. So you'll be seeing Crooked Kingdom in June. But I am so happy that a lot of our characters have made like progress with like their emotional bandwidth and their relationships. And the heist was absolutely wild. And of course, nothing goes to plan. I was kind of shocked by one of the twists at the end when, one of the members of the crew decides to do something. I was not shocked about the betrayal at the end. I think a blind person could have seen that coming, even though, some of our crew did not. So I'm a happy camper. I have rated this book 5 stars, and I will be getting to Crooked Kingdom ASAP. But with that being said, let me pull up our lovely timer here. I have 18 hours and 33 minutes left, and I need to pick another book from our stack. So I honestly kind of have a little bit of fantasy hangover from Six of Crows. So I am back and forth right now between Favorite and That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon. And honestly, I think I'm going to go with That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon because I know that this will be a quick read. The font is pretty large, and it's about 260 pages, which means I will get through it quickly. And Six of Crows took a little longer than I thought it would take me to read at 5.5 hours. So I kind of feel like I'm a little bit behind in my goal of 5 books. So I figure this will make me feel a little bit more accomplished. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with my next read, and I will check in with you when I have something to say. right, time for book two's halfway check-in. I am just under 17 hours into our readathon now, and I have about 100 pages left of that time I got drunk and saved a demon. And this book, honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about it in the sense of like, this is a very like campy and fun time. But at the same time, like I am struggling with some aspects of the book. Like this is kind of set in a more medieval setting, but they use very, very modern language. Like at one point, Cinnamon, our FMC, calls somebody bro, and just the way that she talks and the way that everybody talks kind of is very modern and uses slang. And so the world and the language don't feel like they line up exactly. And also, I'm like not invested in Cinnamon and Fallon, our MMC, being together. Like, not that I don't enjoy them as characters. I find them quite fun. It's all very campy, and I feel like I have not really gotten like a chance to like care about them on a deeper level. Like, I am thoroughly invested in their quest. So the whole kind of premise of this book is Cinnamon, on her way home from drinking a little too much at a like village get together one night, hears like a groaning noise, goes to investigate, finds, a body buried under some tree branches and rubble, fishes him out, and then Fallon attempts to kill her. And she wards him off by walloping him with a cinnamon branch because her family owns a spice farm. Which is another thing. I know when I pulled this for my May TBR, I kind of said like, oh, Cinnamon's a little bit like nail on the head. Everybody in this book, at least in Cinnamon's family, has very nail on the head names. Her older brothers are named Chili and Cumin, and her friend is named Brie, as in Brie, and she is, of course, a cheesemaker. So the whole premise here, like I was saying, is, Cinnamon saves Fallon. She wallops him with a cinnamon branch in an effort to get away from him after he freaks out and starts trying to attack her. And she succeeds in getting away, only for him to return in the morning, but is no longer crazed. So, like, he was crazed attacking her, and then when he returns to her house in the morning, is pleasant and gentlemanly enough for her mother to, like, invite him in for breakfast. And he basically tells Cinnamon, hey, that goddess that you've been you and your people have been worshiping for God knows how long, is a false goddess. She's basically an undead sorceress who practices necromancy. She locked all the demons away behind a gate like 600 and some odd years ago. He's telling her all of this, and he's like, I need you to come with me to the temples, and I need you to help me destroy this chalice that is holding Mavra's, like, heart, so that we can kill her and we can, end her bad influence on demons and on the land in general, and you can stop worshiping a false goddess. So Cinnamon, who has tried very hard to, like, avoid the spotlight and avoid getting, wrapped up in a quest or anything like that, has now, inevitably gotten wrapped up in a quest. Like I said, I am having fun. The characters, are just a silly, goofy, fun time. The spice is not, is entertaining. It's just the fact that I feel just like the two, like the romance plotline and the plotline are just so incongruous. So I am going to be finishing this book, but I think right now it's like somewhere between a 2.5 and a 3 star. I'm kind of hoping that as we get deeper into the quest, that the plotline becomes more of a priority than what's going on between Fallon and Cinnamon. right, I have finished my second book for my 24-hour readathon, and I have 16 hours and 22 minutes left on my timer at the moment. I'm going to be giving this book a 3-star read. I think that what I said in my halfway check-in is still very pertinent to how I feel about this book. I very much enjoyed the plot and the adventure and then how it all like came together and the ending. I still, though I did soften towards Cinnamon and Talon's relationship, I still wasn't as heavily invested as I would like to be. Like all of my like Roman Empire couples, you know, like you just want to be so invested and so just down bad for them being together. And I didn't really care here. I mean, it was fun. The spice was fun, but the relationship was just, it was there. It was a short read, which is what I was hoping for, get some momentum back, which then begs the question of where am I going next? So I am very much a mood reader, and as much as I would love to stick to this TBR, the only way I think I'm going to get through this video is if I do give into the mood reading sometimes. So right now, what we have left is Savor It, Light of the Midnight Stars, Read in the Holly Library, and Ready or Not. I already don't want to read Savor It and Ready or Not right now just because I literally just finished a romance and I don't want to read romances back to back. And then the Ren in the Holly Library, if I understand correctly, involves monsters, and That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon very much involves demons as kind of a overall species, but that's like vampires, werewolves, dragon shifters, all of the above. So I don't know if I'm in the mood for another book with similar creatures. And then, excuse me, I've got like a cat hair somewhere on my face. You shed all over my face when you were marking me earlier. You can't see him, but Bean's parked right down there. Maybe I'll snatch him so you can say hi. Come here. All right, so I did not succeed in snatching Bean, but I did succeed in snatching Itty Bitty. She is not terribly fond of being held, so I'm gonna let her go in a minute. There you go. Be free, little one. She's funny. She's like a running back. She gives you the stiff arm when you pick her up. But yeah, the furballs I moved out here because they are not fond of when I read in my reading chair because I lock them out of that room since all my plants are in there and they will eat them and then throw them back up. So anyway, back to what I was saying. I will catch back up with you when I have picked my next read. An update on book 3 of this 24-hour readathon. I have 14 hours and 17 minutes left in my challenge. But as I'm sure you guys saw, I ended up deciding to pick up Indigo Ridge. And my thought process here was that it was kind of mystery thriller-esque, but it had a little bit of romance. It was kind of different enough from anything else I have in my pile that it would be like a nice little palate cleanser in order for me to like get back to the planned TBR. So I am like 2/3 of the way through this book, and I am enjoying it. I will say like it's probably like somewhere between a 3 and a 4-star read. I am enjoying it, but like I'm not engrossed. The plot is that Winnie, she goes by many a name depending on who is talking to her. She is a police officer who moves back to her hometown of Quincy, Montana to become police chief. And her grandfather is the mayor. And so between her young age and her grandfather, there's a general distaste for her in the town. They don't like outsiders, and they feel like she kind of earns the job more through nepotism than actual skill. However, she is quite skilled at policing and at detective work. And the first night she's back in town, she ends up hooking up with Griffin. She initially thinks that he is not a local, but as to, the dismay of both of them, they quickly find out that they are both going to, be seeing each other in town. He is kind of not happy about it because he has had quite a few experiences of hooking up with women who are local and then them wanting more than he's willing to offer, aka a one-night stand. And she, just because, she's trying to find her feet in this town, and sleeping with a local would not be great for her reputation, in her opinion. So the two of them kind of re-meet because her grandfather introduces her to Griffin's father, who is like one of the members of the founding family of the town. And then the two of them run into each other again when a body is found at the bottom of the titular Indigo Ridge, which is on Griffin's family's ranch, like on the Eden family property. It is initially ruled as self-inflicted. However, based on like Winslow's previous experiences as more of a big city cop, she feels that there may be some foul play. For example, the girl is found without shoes, but her car is parked like 7 miles away and her feet are, unharmed. So obviously she wouldn't have made that trek, shoeless if her feet are just fine, but her shoes are also nowhere to be found. So she suspects foul play, especially because there have been previous successful attempts off this particular ridge. And Winnie feels that the number of successful attempts does not match the town's population. The other thing is Wynn's investigation is not endearing her to the townspeople any more than she already has. They kind of feel like she's poking, prodding, and opening up old wounds. So I am enjoying this ride. It is kind of exactly what I needed. A quick read, a, more mystery-based read. There is some romance. I will check back in with you guys when I am done with this book. And then I think, honestly, our next book is going to be The Wren in the Holly Library. So I am excited about that, but we need to finish this up first. And like I said, it's somewhere between a 3 and a 4 star, and I'm having a good time. All right, as I'm sure you guys saw, book 3 is complete, and this is going to be a 3.5 star read. I enjoyed it, but it was kind of more like popcorn reading, like book snack reading, kind of like, it was entertaining. I'm here for it, but I don't know how much I will think about it now that I have read it. I will say, though, that when Wynn and Griffin finally get into it about her investigation of the girl's death, that they actually communicated like adults. She had to do her job, which kind of led her to kind of step on Griffin's family's toes, so to speak, not in a bad way. Like nobody kind of held her accountable, but they were still kind of upset about where her questioning led her. And, originally he was very, very salty about it and kind of came in swinging verbally. And she pointed out to him that, it's not fair that his family get a different treatment. And she, tried to be subtle and, yada, yada, yada. And he was like, you know what, you're right. I mean, I don't have to like it. And she's like, well, no, you don't have to, but you need to get over it. So I very much enjoyed their dynamic. It was like a very healthy, mature relationship. And I very much enjoyed the story. Now that I'm talking about it, I feel like maybe this is a 4 star read instead of a 3.5 star. I just think it wasn't gripping. Like I enjoyed everything about it. Like I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the, solution to the mystery. I enjoyed their relationship. I felt like it was very mature. I was never annoyed at them at any point, which is huge because sometimes couples are just really annoying. So maybe this is a 4 star. I don't know. This might be a book where I have to sit on it. So 3.5 or 4, I will get back to you. But in the meantime, because the clock is ticking. I am going to pick up the Wren and the Holly Library, and I'm excited to read about a monster treaty. I am coming at you with another update. I have 10 hours and 44 minutes left of this 24-hour readathon, and I am just under halfway through the Wren and the Holly Library. Now, really quickly, I know I had a moment of appreciation for these end papers already, but can we also have a moment of appreciation for the naked hardcover of this book? This is just a really pretty book in general, although I do feel that the art style between the dust jacket, the naked hardback, and then the inner papers is just a little incongruous. I mean, they're all pretty. It was kind of a moment of, oh, this isn't all quite go. So I, like I said, am just under halfway through this book, and the premise of this book is that Kierse, which is spelled Kierse, and is pronounced like Pierce, but with a K. Thank you, K.A. Lindy, for putting that in here, because I was kind of like, I feel like it's Kierse, but I feel like I could also be very wrong. Kierse is a thief and an orphan, and at the beginning of this story, she has taken on a job to steal from someone who is unknown to her. But she knows that she's looking for like a very large diamond ring. But when she goes into the home to steal this ring, she ends up getting caught by the owner of the house, who turns out to be a monster. And so in this world, monsters, which are, warlocks, vampires, werewolves, sirens, sprites, all of the above. So monsters is kind of an overarching term. They kind of came out of hiding 13 years ago and wrought like lots of havoc and destruction on the world. Millions died. And at the end of the day, there was a treaty signed called the Monster Treaty. And what Kierse is doing here by stealing from a monster violates the treaty. And so when she initially is caught, she thinks she's done for, but Graves, the guy that she stole from, realizes that she was able to get past his magical wards and decides that she must be very unique. She must have a unique power of nullifying magic, and decides that she is the perfect thief for him to hire for one of his own jobs. So we shall see about my thoughts and feelings on this book, but I think this might be my last daylight update for you guys. So, when I next see you, it will be dark. Okay, so I don't normally do this. I normally just do my halfway check-in and do my conclusion, but I just had a thought. I just had a theory, and I want to talk about it. So this could, if I ever end up being correct, be a spoiler. So if you do not want to hear me theorize about what could be happening here, go ahead and skip ahead to the timestamp that I insert here. But this series is called The Oak and the Holly Cycle. The first book is called The Wren and the Holly Library. The second book is called The Robin and the Oak Throne. And Graves just had Kierse read, as like part of her, ongoing education with him, a legend about the Oak and Holly Kings. So one of the kings ushers in like summer, and the other one ushers in winter. And, they go back and forth and they battle once a year, and whoever wins ushers in the season. So there's like harmony and balance to it. I think Graves might be the Holly King. So he's like a highly powerful warlock. His personal sigil is holly branches. He mentions that he and Lorcan, which is the head of the Druids, which is the gang that took offense to Kyr's walking out of Graves' like house unharmed, he says that they were some kind of brothers once upon a time. And so I could be wildly off here, but there's a part of me that is suspecting that this rivalry that Graves and Lorcan have is much, much older than like a recent offense between the two of them. Plus, like I said, the titles of the books, the title of the series. I could be way off here, but I have my suspicion. I now have 8 hours and 19 minutes left until my 24-hour readathon is over. We are in the third stretch. And at this point, I am kind of making some changes. We're back on the couch because I felt like if I stayed on my bed any longer, I would fall asleep. And I do have a couple energy drinks in the fridge that I may end up reaching for if times get truly desperate. But as I'm sure you saw, I finished the run in the Holly Library, and I'm on the fence about this one. I think this is another 3.5 star. I could be wrong, but this is kind of where I'm leaning. I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the relationship between our MMC and our FMC the most out of all of this. I kind of had the opposite problem of Indigo Ridge, where I enjoyed the plot line more than I enjoyed the romance. I think in this one, I enjoyed the romance more than the plot line in some ways. So I didn't really care about the quest and about the heist that he wanted. Sorry, I should be more specific. I didn't really care about Graves' assignment for Kyr's. I was enjoying the process, shall we put it. I was enjoying her learning how to use her magic and her training and her scouting and her reconnaissance missions and their plotting and planning and all of that stuff. I was enjoying that. But the actual quest, the point of fruition, the point where it was all supposed to come together, felt kind of anticlimactic. I really didn't care. The reveal was not shocking to me at the end of this book. So as much as I genuinely enjoyed the process and the romance, the whole point of the book is the plot. I'm not usually a character study based kind of book. I'm here for the plot. I'm here for the planning and the machinations and all that stuff. So I just, like I said, I enjoyed it, and I am glad that I purchased this book, and I will be looking at picking up the second book, which is the Robin and the Oak Throne. And, I have my team that I'm rooting for, but, this is not, like I said with Indigo Ridge, this is not a Roman Empire 5-6 star series. It's a series I enjoy, a series I'm interested in finishing, but not one that I think will stick with me in the long term. Which then leads us to the next book we are picking up in this video, which is Savor It by Tara DeWitt. So I do have the physical copy, but I am considering at this point switching to my Kindle because I do believe it is on Kindle Unlimited. Just because I know that you can read a little bit faster on Kindle, and I'm kind of getting sick of holding books, which I never thought I would say. right, we have 6 hours and 6 minutes left in this reading vlog, and we're kind of devolving into chaos. I'm starting to struggle here, to be honest. I have done a couple things in an attempt to stay awake since you last saw me 2 hours ago. I have listened to a bit of Savor It on audiobook. I feel like this book has gotten read in many format. I've picked up the physical copy. I've picked up my Kindle to read it. I have listened to it on audiobook, but I listened to a little bit of it on audiobook so I could do my nails. I have taken off my makeup, although I still need to do my full skincare routine. I just figured it was bothering me. I took my contacts out, which is why you guys can see my glasses. At this point, we're doing anything possible to stay awake for the rest of this 24-hour readathon. But as you guys can see, I have broken out the aforementioned energy drink. This is not my favorite flavor, but it's what I got and it will do. So anyway, just to let you know, I am struggling, but I am also 170 pages into Savor It. So this is a contemporary romance about a chef and actually, what is it that Sage does? She works. She's a teacher, for the love of God. Clearly I'm struggling. Okay. So we get both Sage's perspective, she's a teacher, and Fisher's perspective, he is a chef. Fisher, prior to the events of this book, kind of like lost his spark. He used to work for a Michelin-starred restaurant. Due to his lack of innovation in recent years, the restaurant lost a star, and then a critic approached him while he was eating dessert at a table, and he ended up pieing the critic in the face after they kind of said some less than kind things to him. So as kind of an opportunity for redemption, I should be holding the book. So as an opportunity for redemption, his backer, the owner of the restaurant that he previously worked at, said, "Hey, I'm opening a restaurant in Spoons, Oregon, and I need somebody down there to work out the menu and kind of help things along because the locals are very opposed to this restaurant happening," which you come to find out is pretty reasonable. The restaurant is called Stargazer or something like that. And it's meant to have an observatory, but from the outside, it's looking a little phallic. And the townspeople are not happy with kind of the desecration of their main street. So he kind of uproots and moves to Spoons, and he brings with him his niece. His sister died in a car accident 3 years ago. That's also kind of when he started to decline. And I think a big part of it is if you have read, Caught Up by Liz Tomforty, it's almost the same thing that our FMC in that book is facing, where she was such a star and she burned so bright in the culinary world and she kind of burned out. I think that Fisher is kind of facing the same thing, where he is no longer feeling inspired to create or anything like that. So he moves to Spoons, and that's kind of where our FMC comes in. Sage is a teacher in Spoons, and she also lives on a property that backs a neighbor who's only living there 6 months out of the year. And so the other 6 months out of the year, she acts as kind of a property manager for the couple as they rent out the property. So Sage and Fisher meet because he's renting out the couple's property for the summer while he's there trying to sort out the restaurant that his backer is investing in. And that's kind of how the two of them start. He is very, I don't want to say socially awkward, but he's done with people. He's over people, and he has really no interest in getting involved in local life while he's there. But Sage is kind of hey, if you want to succeed here, you do need to win over the locals. After all, they're the ones who are holding up the permits and that kind of thing. So as she is kind of inserting herself into his summer in a way, because they're neighbors and she's trying to be friendly, and she's also kind of noticing that he seems to be a little bit lost and his niece seems to also be struggling. Hi. So she's kind of like inserting herself into their lives a little bit, not unlike in a forceful, unwelcome kind of way, but in a way of kind of like forcing him to get over himself and his, antisocial tendencies. And he is kind of initially not very welcoming of the intrusion, but decides eventually that it might not be so bad that she's involved. And the two of them kind of make a deal. She will help him win over the townspeople and help kind of push the project of the new restaurant forward. And he, in turn, will help her with this local contest, which her ex-fiance and ex-friend / classmate are involved in. And her ex-fiance has won like many a year in a row. So it's kind of almost a way to like take back her space, because she feels like the town kind of pities her for her relationship with Ian falling apart. If you cannot be seated, you are going to get evicted. But I will come back at you when I finish this book. I've officially finished book 5. Now, I think this is a 4-star. However, I do not think that I am like functional enough to give you guys a true like overall rating. I really enjoyed how Tara DeWitt like handled this whole situation between these two. So obviously, like I mentioned before, she is a teacher in a small town in Oregon. He is a chef in New York, and he goes to Spoons for the summer. And it's all parties are well informed that he is just there for the summer. And so when the two of them start like giving into their attraction to each other, they both kind of acknowledge that is a fleeting thing. He has, a life elsewhere. She has a life there. She has, a property that she's inherited and animals that she has to take care of and yada, yada, yada. And I really liked how Tara DeWitt kind of handled that whole breakdown. He obviously, like I said previously, is currently taking care of his niece, has guardianship of his niece, and she's had like a lot of change. And she's also not terribly fond of small towns. And we kind of get the, lack of love for small towns on his end early on. And we kind of discover after, he kind of makes some quips and some comments that the reason he's not a huge fan of small towns is because his family moved to a small town when he and his sister Freya were kids, and they were very much ostracized for being outsiders, both his parent and him and his sister. And then his sister got pregnant with Indy, with the niece, when she was a teenager, and that just kind of made the whole thing worse. And then Indy grew up in that town and was kind of treated as the daughter of a teenage mistake. When it becomes clear to Indy that Fisher and Sage are getting closer, the two of them kind of have a talk about what's going to happen at the end of the summer, that she doesn't want to stay there, that, she will feel very betrayed if he decides to stay, because she doesn't, want a small town life anymore. And I loved the fact that he heard her out. I liked the way that everybody handled themselves in this book. I felt like it was very realistic and sensitive to everybody else's feelings. At some point he suggests maybe they do long distance, and Sage says that's not for me. And I respect that, because long distance is not for me either, girl. So I'm with you there. I overall enjoyed it. It was kind of like a warm hug of a book. TBD 4 stars. And I have 2 books left from my TBR for the month. I have The Light of the Midnight Stars and Ready or Not. And to be honest, I'm not sure where I'm going next. It could be neither of these. I have 4 hours and 22 minutes left, which means I have enough time to finish one book, depending on whether or not I choose wisely. I will say that if I pick a book that I cannot finish in that time, I am probably going to finish it on the day that I film the outro, and just going to give you my final thoughts, because I don't want to leave a book unfinished in a video. That just feels a little wrong. So whatever I pick, regardless, you will get my final thoughts. It just might exceed the timer, but I'm not reading past the timer today. I'm just not. I do not have the capacity for that. I have like half my energy drink left, and I just need to get through these 4 hours. I might at some point like pause and do my skincare because I might need to like splash some cold water on my face. But we are almost there, peeps. We are almost there, and I do not know what I'm picking up next, but whatever we pick up will be our final book, and you will get my final thoughts. Alright, I am here for our last midway check-in. It is 3:48 in the morning, and I have approximately 52 minutes left of my readathon home stretch. We're almost there. But really quickly, if you do not recall why, in theory, my readathon should have ended 17 minutes ago, because I started at 3:30 a.m. yesterday, and it's now 3:47 a.m. today. Or 3:48 a.m. today. It's because I took that like brief little break after 6 of Crows to like do my hair and put on makeup and like get myself put myself together for the day. There we go. So that whole interlude right there might lend some credence to the fact that I think that choosing this as my last book was both inspired and stupid. So inspired because I'm having the time of my life right now. I'm so tired that I'm like perfectly able to put my brain in like the zone of just reading. Nothing but reading. Paying attention to nothing but the book. Stupid because this is the kind of book that requires a glossary, and yet I decided to put it up as my last book, which then means that I don't know how like cohesive, comprehensive, concise my explanation of what's going on in this book will be. So with that being said, I will do my best, but bear with me here. This book follows 3 main characters. We have Orca. She is formerly a warrior who's kind of like retired from that life and decided to build like a farming homestead with her husband and her son. And like her husband, Thorkel, was part of that like life as well. So they kind of left that life together, built a farm, had their son. Varg is our second perspective. He is a thrall or a former thrall, which is in this world kind of like a slave, who killed his master and ran away in an effort to avenge his sister's death. And we still don't really have a ton of background, even, this far in on like his sister's death, like who killed her, why they killed her, yada, yada, yada. And then the last perspective we get is Elvar. She is somebody who joined a war band called the Battle Grim, like pretty like recent, semi-recently, like 3 years prior to the events of this book, and she is like gathering fame and acclaim as a warrior. So those are the 3 perspectives we're getting, and it's clearly like a book where the 3 perspectives will like converge at some point in some way. But kind of the catalyst and the kickoff for Orca's timeline of events is like the area that she lives in has been experiencing like attacks. So like outlying homesteads are being attacked, the parents are being slain, and the like any children they may have are being taken. And so Orca and Thorkel, her husband, decide that they're going to leave the homestead given everything that's going on. However, before they have a chance to do so, Thorkel is killed and Brekka, their son, is taken. And so now Orca is on the warpath to figure out what the hell happened to her son, who took him, why they took him, where they're taking him. and she is leaving like bodies in her wake. Like I said, clearly she lived a life of battle and violence prior to the events of this book. And then for Varg, he's kind of seeking essentially like a sorcerer who can give him information on like the last moments of his sister's life, I think, essentially to find out who killed her. And in his quest, he runs away after killing his master to try and fulfill, you know, his vengeance and seek out a sorcerer who can like tell him what happened to her, like happened to her in her last moments. And when he does so, he comes across the Bloodsworn, which is like another battle band, sort of like the Battle Grimm. And they are like much more renowned. Like it's clear that they are like the preeminent group. And the Bloodsworn leader has a thrall who can, in fact, give Varg what he's looking for. And when he asks if she will help him, he is told, you have to be Bloodsworn in order to like use her services. And so he ends up fighting for the right to like join the Bloodsworn. And then Elvar, who is the member of the Battle Grimm, we meet her when like her band is like descending on a village in an effort to hunt down a tainted. And so what a tainted is in this world, you know, hundreds of years ago, the gods battled and I don't want to say lost, but they basically laid waste to each other in their civil war. But the tainted are like people with blood of those gods in their veins who like have, you know, if you are a descendant of Hundor, which is like the hound, then you have like advanced tracking abilities and like that sort of thing. And tainted are viewed as like lesson, like it's now illegal to worship the gods. And so like if you're tainted, you're viewed as like kind of like demon touched in a way, and like, you know, your life is forfeit or either to death or to becoming a thrall. And so like Alvar's band is descending on this island to hunt down a berserker thrall, or like a, you know, a bear thrall, so to speak. And when they track him down, he has his like wife and child. And it becomes clear that that little family is more important than they initially seem to be. So that's kind of where we are. I like don't want to talk too much about like what all is happening. But I'm like very interested in the part the gods play in all of this. So clearly, for the most part, they are dead. Though legend is that the dragon still lives, but is like captive. And like no dragon tainted have ever been like recorded. But their bones are still like I feel bad saying carcasses. Their skeletons are still like present in the land. Like Alvar's band travels to a town that is literally built in the skull of Snaka, which is the snake god, or like the king and like the father of the gods. And he died in the Good Fallen, or like the God Fall. And these like skeletons provide people who settle near them, on them, in them with like prosperity and like that kind of thing. And so like they're very highly sought after to obtain. And this is going in a very interesting direction. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but it's clear that there are relics of the battle that may be discovered in this book, and that's really interesting to me. So I'm very interested to see how these three storylines will come together. I can kind of already see how some of them tie together, like Orca and Varg's timeline. I can kind of see how her history might be linked to his present, so to speak. I'm not entirely sure at this point how Alvar's storyline might like weave in, but we shall see. But I'm excited. So what we're going to do is I'm going to keep reading this book until the timer ends, and I won't finish this book before our 52 whatever minutes are up. But I will obviously be like, oh, yay, we're done. But I'm going to like do a proper outro tomorrow morning. Good night. It is now several days after my 24-hour readathon has concluded, and I am finally coming at you guys with a reading update for The Shadow of the Gods and a conclusion. Now, the reason it took me so long to finish The Shadow of the Gods has absolutely nothing to do with how good the book was, and absolutely everything to do with the fact that I had the world's worst reading hangover post 24-hour readathon. It took me about 3 or 4 days before I even wanted to touch another book again. It was bad. I am really happy that I did the challenge. I am like really happy with how much I got read, but I think in the future, any 24-hour readathons will be done in 2 12-hour days instead of 1 24-hour day, because the reading hangover was rough. And also, I just don't do well on no sleep. I am too old for that. I am too old for all-nighters now. But The Shadow of the Gods, this is a 4.5-star read for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I will be continuing this trilogy. I will be picking up other John Gwynne books. He is now an author to watch for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is everything like I think a high fantasy should be. And I just, don't often get to read ones based on Norse mythology. So that also made me really happy. I had a good time. This was a good time. And, the plot lines have started to converge, which makes me very happy. So 4.5 stars. And to go over what else I read in my 24-hour readathon really quickly, we got Six of Crows, which was book 1 and the only 5-star read, but 'twas great. Mwah. I will be picking up Crooked Kingdom ASAP. And then I rated That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon 3 stars. This was a fun, campy romance. If you're looking for something spicy, something campy, this is it. And then I gave Indigo Ridge 3.5 stars. I very much enjoyed this. It is kind of a niche in the sense that it's like thriller mystery, but also mostly romance. And I had a good time. I will definitely be picking up the rest of the series for this book as well. And then we have The Wren and the Holly Library. This was a 3.5-star read. All romance, no plot is kind of how I felt about it. The plot just felt very disjointed. Like it felt like we jumped in midway and then we kind of got, like it never fully developed. It was more focused on the relationship, which I did enjoy the relationship, which is why this is a 3.5-star read. And I will be picking up the Robin and the Oak Throne, which is book 2. But just be aware, I was more in it for the romance and the characters than I was for the plot. And then finally, I picked up Savor It by Tarduit, which was a 4-star read. This is just a nice, fun, warm romance. So that means that for my 24-hour readathon, I read 5 and a bit books, shall we say, although I have, since finished The Shadow of the Gods. And I think this was quite a victory for me. So if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you stuck around and watched the whole thing, because I'm sure it's going to be very long, I so very much appreciate it. It would be nice if you would subscribe. Either way, I appreciate you joining me. Bye!